another arm lock that is very common. One of the first moves that you learn is the Americana, which is a shoulder lock. Okay? This instructional is not about shoulder locks. It's about attacking the elbow, straight arm locks only. Okay? But when you go for an Americana, the guy's defense is always to stretch their arm. When you go for a Kimura, the guy's defense is always to straighten out their arm. Right? They don't want their arm bent like this or like this, because these are the shoulder locks. Right? If I go like this and pin his hand, grab my own wrist, and I start to lift, keep your arm back. And I start to lift, that's going to be a shoulder lock on Zach right there. Okay, so Zach's defense is going to be to straighten out his arm. As he straightens out his arm, I'm going to climb my chest over his elbow. I'm going to reach my hand from my wrist to high on my forearm. And then as I start to push his hand down, I'm going to rev this motorcycle, a reverse rev, so that my forearm raises and I can get the tap. And you're going to do the same thing on the Kimura. When you go for a Kimura right here, bend your sideways, and I'm trying to get that lift of his elbow. Okay, I'm on the hand. I grab my hand. Zach starts to straighten out his arm. I'm going to straighten out his arm. I'm going to slide my hand to my elbow. And there's a big gap right here from his hand to the mat. So you should be able to get the tap from that. If my forearm is too high underneath his shoulder and there's no gap right here, you get no tap. So you have to adjust. My left arm right there has to adjust underneath his elbow. Now his hand's high. When I push down, I get the tap, right? The ways to set this up is just to make him push off of your chest right there with his frame and start to climb his arm up, attacking that Americana, right? So Zach's framing right here. I switch my hip. I start to put weight on him. He starts to push on me. Look, I start to pummel my hand through. I go to bend his arm. He straightens it out. I climb up, right? My knees are heavy. My belly's right on his chest, and my chest is right on his elbow. Now, to get my elbow, you see how his hand's close to the mat? To get my elbow a little bit higher, I'm going to reverse rev. So I'm de-revving, de-accelerating. I'm not going like this, like you would for a motorcycle. I'm going the opposite way. This way, so that I can lift my elbow, push his hand down, and you get the tap. Same thing if you switch your base to this side. His hands are in tight. I go for a Kimura, so I'm holding onto his wrist. I'm pushing his wrist down, reaching for my own wrist, and he straightens out his arm right here. I'm going to follow that. Okay? You can play around with using your thumb or no thumb right here. Sometimes I like to use no thumb. Sometimes if the guy's slipping out all the time, I like to grab with my thumb right here. Okay? And then I start to climb my hand deeper around my elbow. That'll lift my forearm and give me a better angle to get the tap right there. Okay? So those are really cool to play around with when you're dealing a lot with that frame with the guy pushing you.